Welcome back to CVM Live. It's now time for the major stories in detail. Justice Brian Sykes will be confirmed as Chief Justice of Jamaica in a ceremony to be held at King's House on Thursday. This comes weeks after members of the judiciary and the opposition came out condemning Prime Minister Andrew Holness's decision to appoint Justice Sykes as acting Chief Justice. Chairman of the People's National Party, Fitz Jackson, says the opposition will be retabling the Banking Services Amendment Bill when the House of Parliament reconvenes. CVM Live's Khadija Thomas has this report.
Jackson was speaking at a PNP press conference at the House of Parliament on Wednesday. He says the government's delay with the banking bill has led to haphazardness and dysfunction in Parliament.
Because you don't want the decision of Parliament to go out there in a divided way. It doesn't make good for effective governance, regardless of which party forms the government. And therefore we are appealing to the government, not for Jamaica's sake, not for the JLP's sake or the PNP's sake, for Jamaica's sake, let us respect the conventions of our parliamentary system in government.
Jackson added that the government made a decision to defend the beneficiaries instead of the victims of banking fees.
It was very, very, very unfortunate that the government, whose members contributed greatly to the provisions of the bill by way of the recommendations coming out of the Economy and Production Committee, chaired by a senior member of the Jamaica Labour Party, Mr. Carl Samuda, and which Mr. Vaz participated in which Mr. Shaw participated in, and signed the report with the recommendations. And on the moment to act on the very things that they signed off on, they flipped 180 degrees.
He says the bill had been circulated to government officials with the expectation that they would make pertinent changes. However, only the Consumer Affairs Commission provided recommendations.
This is only when the action is to be taken that the government saw it convenient to block that bill and to block the very things that they said a lot about that was urgent. The bill will be tabled, and I'm appealing to good sense to prevail on the part of the government members.
Khadija Thomas, CVM Live.
The brother of a St. Andrew woman who spoke exclusively on CVM Live about him being attacked and beaten by a police officer is demanding justice and equal rights. As Nika Lewis reports, the man was allegedly beaten and left with a broken hand in what has been described as a near-death encounter.
Earlier this month, a brother and a sister from a St. Andrew address alleged they were beaten and verbally abused by a police officer near a shop in their community, believed to be predominantly occupied by members of the same family. At the time of our report, the sister had just been released from lockup after the alleged altercation with the police, where she said her brother's hand was broken by the officer.
Police, them not deal with you right. Them not deal with you right. Because we not deal with no violence. We deal with love. We deal with righteousness. Love. Or if you just come abuse the Rasta, back way him attack me, you know. Back way him attack me and deal with me, you know. Mash me up back way. My father never beat me yet, mummy.
He said he was attacked and beaten by the accused police for minutes until his sister and others intervened. Stressing he was never abused before, he insists he wants justice. And he says he's been languishing while his goats die because of his absence.
Let the Indicom take over the thing. After Indicom come and take over the thing, them not go on like how they used to go on again. And now too, them come do it. We need justice, mommy man. Justice. Right now, him put me in a problem, you know. Right now, from Midday in a hospital, a few animals them die, you know.
Larman, who has been in hospital since the incident on February 16, says he was only released to purchase and return with medical pins for his broken limb. Worrying about providing bread for his family was not all, after he says he has been made uncomfortable by the police in the area since his release.
Yesterday, me go buy meat for my mother cook. And when I check it out, a police, me see a pint on me. A pint up on me. Me attack it on the ear straight. Me and no one do in a nothing. Everybody love me. My name Choo Choo. If me for dead right now, the policeman come kill me.
Nika Lewis, CVM Live.
And speaking with the CCU's ASP Delia Garrick, who made some checks into the allegations, she says the incident occurred about 11:30 p.m. that Friday when police on patrol in the area known as Ghetto discovered that a party in the area was not permitted and requested that the music be turned off. She says it's reported Larman was aggravated by this and hurled expletives at the police, who asked him to desist. Upon the reported failure to heed the warning, the police sought to detain him when he attempted to resist, at which time the police reportedly used non-lethal force to restrain him. She says the victim's sister reportedly attacked the police and was later detained, after which the residents threatened to damage the police vehicle, causing the patrol team to flee the area. She says she was not made aware of any broken limbs and would seek to get more details on the matter. Members of the Inspectors Branch Board of the Jamaica Constabulary Force are lobbying for greater protection for rank-and-file officers who find themselves facing charges as a result of INDECOM investigations. CVM Live's Joel Crosskill reports.
The 2018 staging of the Inspectors Branch Board Symposium, titled Restoring Confidence, Creating Partnership, saw a number of issues affecting the Jamaica Constabulary Force addressed, including the thorny issue of police officers being denied a salary when facing a charge in the courts after discharging their responsibilities in the line of duty.
Allow the policeman to live a normal life, even whilst his matter is before the court. And when the policeman spend 10, 15 years sometimes, it happens, before this particular matter is resolved, who now speak to the restorative justice to this policeman who lost literally everything, every single thing? And when he's to return to the job, every obstacle you can imagine find itself in the way for him to receive his payments. When he applied for his legal reimbursement, it is now up to the Attorney General to determine if the member is to be reimbursed. Aren't we in hell?
It was a sentiment that was agreed to by Minister of National Security Robert Montague.
It is unfair to the police officer who, having in the discharge of his or her official duties, is accused of running afoul of the law, is being asked to defend his or herself in the courts of the land. It is unfair. And not only are you being asked to defend yourself in the courts, you are also given a second punishment by being interdicted and cutting in your salary. That's double punishment. And it is not right, and it is not fair.
The National Security Minister also spoke about the positive signs regarding the attrition rate currently being experienced by the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Joel Crosskill, CVM Live.
Another Clarendon community has been given a lifeline as an alternative to criminality with the opening of a resource center under the USAID Empowerment and Transformation Project. As Curlin Brown tells us, the persistence of residents to take back their community from negative elements is encouragement for those offering assistance.
A symbol of new beginnings, the opening of the Racecourse Community Resource Centre, CRC, which could not have come at a better time for the area which lost its pride when sugar was king to now be wrestling with crime and violence. The Clarendon community at this time in 2017 saw crime fighters investigating 2 murders. While so far this year the slate is still clean, Acting Assistant Commissioner of Police Steve McGregor says that's good, but the signs are not all that great regarding another issue with grave consequences.
This rising scourge that is in this community where they are trading flour, yes, for cocaine, and taking money from people and exchanging it for flour. This is causing a lot of disgruntled people to be coming into your area to get back their money or to reprise. And children are on the streets, family members when they are looking for cousins and sons and daughters who are doing this. It can cause major mayhem down here.
In the early days, this used to be a prosperous, thriving community. You had no fear to come here.
Scrap metal theft destroyed skills training facilities and opportunities in the once thriving racecourse, making way also for domestic violence, paidelasty and illiteracy.
There are a lot of kids who are not going to school. There are a lot of parents who are not sending their children to school, are not paying the attention that ought to be paid.
However, based on collaborative efforts, a platform is now in place for educational and social growth through USAID's Community Empowerment and Transformation Project.
This project was possible because of the Racecourse Community Development Committee, whose members came together to collectively find solutions to address crime and violence that have paralyzed their community. They knew they had to do something.
Since Monday, the Traffic and Highway Division of the Jamaica Constabulary Force has been ramping up its presence in the corporate area in an effort to better manage the flow of traffic. And thus far, the feedback has been positive. CVM Live's Nicole Wilson reports.
All critical intersections in the Kingston and St. Andrew municipal area since recently are being manned by police officers at times when there is heavy traffic in the mornings. That's the word from head of the Jamaica Constabulary Force Traffic and Highway Division, Senior Superintendent Calvin Allen. Already, he says, the JCF has been receiving positive feedback from the public via social media.
The head of CECU called me on Saturday to say, sir, please feedback on Twitter, on the Twitter page of the JCF thing, is of such that I have to share them with you, sir. But I'm not seeing you on WhatsApp. And I gave her my WhatsApp details, and she sent them.
SSP Allen also indicated that work is being done to give the same attention to the peak period in the afternoon. Due to limited resources, he says creative ways must be used to carry out their duties effectively.
We have a duty here to create and maintain order on our roadways. So we'll not use any excuse as to resource challenge. Management is about applying flexibility and to making it work instead of finding excuse.
He urged police officers to act professionally, referencing the possibility of being videoed while behaving otherwise. Nicole Wilson, CVM Live.
The police in Falmouth Trelawney have responded to claims from the Falmouth Hospital concerning delays in arrival during Sunday's attack on the public facility by angry relatives of a crash victim. In this report, Nika Lewis details a partnership between the two bodies to prevent a repeat.
The police in Falmouth came under heavy fire from the Falmouth Hospital officials after it was reported to the media that when an angry mob descended on the facility Sunday following a tragic accident, the police, who had been called twice to the scene, were nowhere in sight until 40 minutes later.
The police received a report of the disturbance of Falmouth General Hospital at approximately 7:48 a.m. on Sunday last. A unit responded from the Falmouth Police Station, our operational support team, which is a strike team that deals with disturbance of this nature. That unit was subsequently supported by the Falmouth Domestic Patrol. It is evident, though, based on what transpired, that the security arrangement in place was at the hospital at the time was inadequate to treat with incidents of this nature. Consequently, we have had discussion with the acting CEO at the hospital with a view of strengthening the security arrangement.
Something hard to imagine that the police responded long after they received the request for support, given the fact that the two buildings are separated only by a playfield and an empty lot on the same stretch of road. The lawman explained a new security plan has been put in place at the hospital to prevent a repeat of any such breach.
We have an arrangement in place with the Falmouth General Hospital where our units would make periodic checks there and sign a register that is in place there. We will continue that, where a unit will continue to visit the hospital. However, it is evident that other arrangements have to be put in place, which, as I said before, we have discussed and will implement starting today.
Nika Lewis, CVM Live.
It's time now for our regional and international news with our reporter, Nicole Wilson.
The Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation, CBC, owes overseas program suppliers and local contractors US $4.6 million. For weeks now, subscribers to the CBC's multi-choice television service have been unable to access several popular overseas channels. The reason was revealed in the Barbados House of Assembly on Monday when a resolution was passed for nearly $5 million to be drawn from the Consolidated Fund to supplement the 2017-2018 estimates to pay off CBC's debts. It was disclosed that overseas providers would be getting around $3.8 million, while the remainder would be allocated to pay local contractors. For the past 2 days in Belize, suspected drug planes, or what was left of them, were found at different locations in Orange Walk and Corozal districts. On Tuesday morning, the news was that a drug plane landed early on Monday night in an isolated area near Libertad village in the Corozal district. Indications are that the twin-engine aircraft was set on fire after landing, and by the time the police arrived on the scene, the cargo, believed to be cocaine, had already been removed. Another drug plane was found some hours before. And in Antigua and Barbuda, legal action is being taken to squash the Electoral Commission's decision to move polling stations from Barbuda to Antigua for the March 21st elections. The leader of the Barbuda's People's Movement, BPM, Trevor Walker, is insisting that Barbudans should vote where they live. An injunction was filed on Walker's behalf by attorney-at-law Charlesworth Tabor yesterday. The sister isle was devastated when the Category 5 Hurricane Maria hit last September and residents had been evacuated to Antigua. However, most of them have returned home. Walker's injunction seeks to prevent the Electoral Commission from going through with its plan on the grounds that there are no special circumstances that prevent Barbudans from voting where they reside. We continue with news in the United States. As students at the Florida school where 17 people were recently killed return to classes, a major gun retailer has announced it will stop selling the kind of weapon used in the attack. Dick's Sporting Goods, which has more than 600 shops, said it would no longer sell assault-style rifles and backed common-sense gun reform. The move came as pupils and teachers made an emotional return to Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Those were the top regional and international stories on Wednesday. I am Nicoy Wilson. Good evening.
Well, those were our major stories for this evening. We'll have more news later in the program with Joel Crosskill with News Live in 5. But up next is our panel discussion. Is the Transport Authority operating illegally in some areas? Claims of victimization and unprofessional behavior. The Transport Authority reacts with Communications Officer